Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Linsa and I'm from the product marketing team here at Nimblework. Nimblework is a leading B2B SaaS provider focused on collaborative, AI-powered, adaptive work and project management solutions. It's wonderful to have you all join us today for this panel discussion where we'll deep dive on hybrid agile. Before we begin, let me quickly lay out the agenda. Just 1 second. Sorry. So before we begin, let me quickly lay out the agenda. We'll start with the brief introductions where I'll introduce our panelists, followed by a quick background on Nimblework and the suite of products that suite of solutions that we offer. After that, I'll hand over to our esteemed guest speakers, Elizabeth and our CMO Mahesh, for an engaging panel discussion, followed by a Q&A session towards the end. So some housekeeping note, all the session would be recorded and you'll receive a full recording via the email. And after we wrap up, please feel free to ask questions, share your comments, thoughts in the Q&A session. So let me first start with the introductions of our panelists. Our featured speaker for today is Elizabeth Harrin. She's a bright star in the world of project management with over 20 years of corporate experience under her belt. She has seamlessly transitioned into the role of an independent practitioner, educator, and mentor. A prolific writer with over 7 books published, she has also founded Rebels for Project Management, a venture aimed at assisting project managers. She's an esteemed speaker, which she has been invited to prestigious organizations such as APM and PMI. Also, I would like to introduce our CMO and co-founder, Mahesh. Mahesh has a wealth of experience in project management, product leadership, consulting, marketing, you name it, he has done it. He's a recognized Kanban Fellow by Kanban University and a certified Kanban coach and trainer. So before we start, we have prepared a quick poll to get a feel for the room. This will help us tailor the content to make sure that whatever we discuss is relevant and valuable for all. So you'll see a pop-up window on your screen with the poll question and answer options. Please select the one that you think suits more with your opinion. So we'll wait for 10 more seconds. I urge everyone to please just poll in with your option. All right. Let's see what the poll says.
All right.
So the first question was, how familiar are you with the concept of hybrid agile? So 50% of them said they've heard of it, but then they haven't practiced it. 33%, 2 out of 6 people said that they have practiced it in 1 to 2 projects. And 1 out of 6, they said that they are actually practicing it all the time. The second question was, does your organization use hybrid agile? So 2 said no, and they don't see any plans to actually use it. 2 out of 5 said they plan to use it in the next 3 to 6 months. And one out of 5 said yes, but then in a very limited manner.
All right. I guess, Elizabeth, this is probably in line with the general population, perhaps. the number of people who are just sort of doing a mix of both hybrid and agile, hybrid and waterfall.
Yes, I think this is probably quite common, certainly from people I representative, I mean, certainly from the people that I talk to and I'm mentoring and I'm interacting with project managers as we all do. Um, it's I'm not surprised by those results, but also
Yeah.
it's good to know that people are aware of it as a concept.
Right, right. Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Let's continue, Lindsay. Yeah.
Yes. No, no. Over to you, Mahesh. And I'm really looking forward for your discussion, Elizabeth and Mahesh.
All
Thank you.
right. So if you can just continue on the slides for the next couple of slides, rather than share my screen, we can
Sure.
just a quick overview of the sponsor. So folks, welcome to today's session. Thank you for making the time to join the session today. It's always great to talk to Elizabeth on all kinds of topics, but especially, of course, around project management of various kinds of practice around the world. We are Nimble Work, and Nimble Work is a pioneer in the web-based solutions for work management and project management type of products. We've been around for more than 20 years and have customers around the world. We're headquartered in Cupertino, California, which is where I'm based. And um, we have offices around multiple locations. And over 1 million plus users of medium and large, typically medium and large enterprises using our products for a variety of work, typically IT and software, but also a lot of um, marketing and HR and other business functions, operations, procurement, all kinds of things. Anywhere where people either want to have a more organized way of working or are implementing lean and agile methods of working or visual work management, etc. We do a lot of things. We have a fair bit of competence in hybrid agile. So if you go to the next slide, Linda, um, you'll see that we have a range of different capabilities, and especially in the area of hybrid agile. One of the key things that we do is that we enable very easily the synchronization and roll up of data between agile sprints based execution to a waterfall style planning where you roll up status to milestones and project phases and so forth, which is not something which is very commonly available in other products. So if you're struggling with your tool environment in terms of managing hybrid agile projects and want to have something that combines the two very effectively, we do that very well. But as you see here, we have a lot of capability around various things. Elizabeth, I just see that there is a comment here about a question.
Yes, just I think we'll probably talk about that as we go through our conversation, but it's just a
Okay.
question about
All right.
how do we convince people that this way of working or any way of working is something that is
Okay.
worth investing time in.
Okay, perfect. We'll take that up, and that's actually a great question. And I think hybrid agile in particular is very good at is very good about in this aspect of convincing leadership and getting organization culture to change. I think they're very good. I think we have one last slide, which is about some of our customers. So you'll see here a lot of brands that you might be familiar with, some that you may not be, but as you can tell, we have companies around the sort of spectrum of different types of businesses that run their projects using our products. So with that, let's move forward, and I think we can stop sharing this slide so we people can see Elizabeth much better. Um, can we get out of this mode? Oh, there you go. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome to the talk. Hope you're doing well, and good to see you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me back. It's lovely to be chatting to you again and catching up on common themes in project management and top trends as we did before.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So this actually, so today's talk on hybrid agile actually has been on our minds. We see the discussion on it come up every now and then. But last November, I think, or actually end of October, we were participating in the PMI Global Conference in Atlanta, and I think you were going to be there, but then I think at the last minute
I
your
couldn't
plans
make
have
it in the end.
Yeah, couldn't we missed you there, but we had a fantastic time during the conference. We were overrun in terms of people interested to look at our products, to take a look at some of our goodies and some of the stickers that we were handing out. But nevertheless, some really great discussion around the kinds of challenges people faced in their project management environment. The way their PMOs are organized, and one of the things that kept coming up, and we because we were talking both about our agile products as well as, of course, the traditional project and portfolio management capabilities. The whole notion of hybrid agile came up quite often, and so we asked people questions about what their experience was and how they looked upon hybrid agile. So I thought that this was a great topic for us to discuss and to really get a good sense of how the world of hybrid agile is evolved over the years. And so this is how we are. And we found some interesting things, and we talk about that as we can start the conversation. But let's start with just the initial understanding of what is hybrid agile. So for many of you on the panel, and oh, by the way, I just want to mention this. If you have a question or if you have a comment and you would like to participate in the conversation, just raise your hand, and I think we should be able to unmute you and have you speak on the session. Normally, we take questions via the Q&A or the chat session, but we would like to make this more interactive. So if you have a question and you would like to speak on the webinar, hopefully we can make this happen. We've had some technology issues right before this, so we'd like to do that. But Elizabeth, let's start with what is hybrid agile? What is sort of the common understanding of the concept?
Well, the way I've always understood hybrid agile is that it's a blend of a harmonious use of all the different agile techniques and all the different waterfall techniques in tandem. But that relies on us believing that agile and waterfall are two very separate things that can't be mixed together. And I think most people on the call will probably realize that it's a project management's a bit more of a spectrum, and there's one way of working. There's very fluid, iterative ways of working, and then at the other end of the spectrum, there's a little bit more over with governance heavy, perhaps you might call it, approaches to ways of working. And I think being hybrid just means tailoring, being flexible, and using whatever you need to do to drive results, to deliver the change, and to align the work to the strategic imperatives, regardless of what tools and techniques that might be. So at a project level, hybrid, if we think about what the word actually means, is blending together those two things. And we use it really as a shortcut term to mean fit for purpose ways of working for the projects that we're delivering. So at a project level, to give you an example of what that might look like, it could be a predictive overarching approach. So somebody saying we need this delivered by the end of the year, and then the actual delivery of it is agile. So you might have a quarterly check-in. There might be some governance points throughout the year. There might be classic monthly reporting into the PMO, but the actual completion of the tasks could be done by an agile squad, could be done on a 2-week sprint basis, could be done with Kanban boards. So taking into account that very agile way of delivery. Until we started talking about the PMI event, that had always been my interpretation of what hybrid agile was. But I know people came to your stand and were talking about a quite different way at program portfolio level of what it means to be hybrid agile. So I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but maybe that's an alternative definition that you could share.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so that is surprising that people talked about it. So very clear that they were doing hybrid agile, but very different from what our expectation was on what we were going to hear. But one of the notions of hybrid agile was that it is a hybrid agile organization, not so much the project, but the organization itself. And what they meant was that they were able to, or they had, maybe a certain percentage of their teams who had adopted Agile and had completely moved over to doing Agile work, while other teams were still predominantly in the waterfall realm, and were still due to the nature of their function or the kinds of project that they did, that they were going to be just doing, they were just doing waterfall projects. So in a organizational context, they had some mix of teams that were still waterfall versus teams that had moved over to agile. Maybe there were some that are doing scale agile. And so they refer to that as the hybrid organization, or a hybrid agile organization. So it is at an org level. And so then we asked them that, how do you then, if you had to do something at an org level, like an org level dashboard, how do you do that? How do you mix and match? And they talked about their struggle about, how do you actually, combine, let's say, in a single program, multiple projects where some were waterfall, some were agile. How do you mix and match the metrics in such a way that it made sense at the program level or at the portfolio level? And they didn't have any easy ways. There are a lot of, hand waving going on, and also a lot of manual work around presenting accurate status of program or portfolio level, reporting.
Yes, I think that's a really interesting challenge, isn't it, for PMOs
Yeah.
and for executives, is the mindset change of we want to be agile, but we still want a slide deck at the end of every quarter, which tells us our key metrics. And those key metrics are often not as agile as the delivery organization underneath it. So I think it's really interesting, and it's fascinating how hybrid can mean so many different things because it's so flexible. So some of the people listening to this may well be in a project where they've got various different delivery teams. So maybe the legal department is running their work stream in a very predictive, classic way, and maybe the IT department or marketing are running their delivery streams in a much more agile way. Or it could be like what you've just said, a program has multiple projects, some of which are being led in an agile way, some are not, or even at portfolio level. And we have to be able to, as project leaders, adapt to and tailor the ways of working to suit all of that, and to give our executive stakeholders what they need in terms of that overarching dashboard, to give them a consistent, transparent view of what's happening.
Yes, absolutely. One other thing that not too many people said that, but a few people did nevertheless. And I think in a way you referred to that in the beginning, that if they were, so a lot of people are very, especially in the agile world, there is a sort of, I don't know, religious wars, if you want to call it that. So people who had combined multiple agile methods, so Scrum and Kanban are the two biggest examples that come up. So if you're doing Scrum and Kanban together, some people call it Scrumban or Kanban with Scrum, whatever. They've referred to that as well as a hybrid agile method. And again, that was slightly different from our understanding. My personal view has always been that's a mix of traditional and agile, but again, it is flexible, and as you said, it's really a spectrum where depending on the team's environment, you choose what works best for you. But that is another aspect of it.
Yes.
So, sorry, we're going to say something.
I was only going to say that typically we think of hybrid as meaning a blend of two things, like Scrum and
Yeah,
Kanban. But what's to stop us from blending three things or five
yeah,
things to get the best tailored approach for the success result that we want? Because at the end of the day, we all just want the projects to work effectively, people to have the tools and techniques that they need, and for us to just deliver great value for the organization.
absolutely. You said it. Yeah, couldn't have said it better. So let's go back a little bit. So I asked you this question before we started the session. I had asked you, what is the earliest known instance? And obviously there isn't any easy sort of answer for that. But what is your sense of how long has hybrid agile existed, and when do you think it started?
Well, I think if we're using the definition of blending different techniques, or an organization, a hybrid agile organization, where some projects are run in an agile way and some projects are run in a more linear way, then I think we're probably going back as long as the Agile Manifesto has been around, probably even before then, because within a large organization, you may have had your tech organization, your tech department running very agile sprint-based projects, and then you'd probably have had construction or customer service doing process improvement projects, which perhaps don't work so well in an agile environment. So I think, obviously, agile is not just a tech thing, and it's used in a lot more departments across an organization than that now because it's so flexible. But if you go back and use your hybrid organization model, we've probably had this in place for a long time, and it's interesting now as to why we're talking about it. And I think a lot of the professional standards have not suddenly, but come to the conclusion that including a section on tailoring is a good thing. And they all seem to have caught up quite recently in the last few years with saying, actually, you don't have to just follow these processes exactly as they are written in our book. You can use your professional judgment and tailor and adapt and even do something radical like have two methodologies going at the same time. And I think that's probably meant that more people are aware of the options available to them and are able to bring them together without feeling so constrained to have to follow a particular life cycle. What do you think?
In terms of the since I mean, how long we've been hearing about it, I think I'm going to say that our journey began when we began our agile journey. So that was probably around the 2010. So till then, I have to admit that we were a little bit unaware of the rest of the world. But nevertheless, I think since then, it's constantly been there at some level or the other. And again, I think you quite rightly put it. It has always been a spectrum of how people have mix and match their methods. One of the things that our largest customers do is they have they have business lines, multiple business lines, and each business line has its own uh, um, set of templates, or different processes that they use for running those business lines, and each of them can be very different from the other. So for the longest time, and we've been around since 2002, so not a whole lot longer after the Agile Manifesto, I think, which was late 90s. Um, we have always seen a mix of methods in each of those process templates, as they call it. Some were very rigid, and some were much more flexible in the way that they ran their projects. So to that extent, it's been there forever. But really, in the context of traditional putting together traditional plus agile, I think it's probably been since 2010 onwards. So yeah, I think it's been around for a long time. I think it's probably gaining more uh, traction, I think, as more and more companies move over from waterfall to agile. And some of them might be struggling with because of the kinds of project that they do, or just the challenge of sort of, shifting mindset, shifting culture, etc. And therefore, there is maybe a little bit more increased conversation about hybrid agile, but in terms of actually doing it, uh, maybe it's been there for a long time. So I just want to invite folks on the audience as well, and I'm going to just make sure that if there is any questions, we can answer those as they come. Or if anybody has a comment on the core points that we're discussing, please do feel free to let us know, and we'll try and get you guys to be on the talk as well. Linza, make sure that we are tracking any such requests.
Yes.
So, in terms of origins, and then in terms of the way that it's been practiced, um, do you see some sort of and again, even though we are saying that these are, this is a spectrum, and therefore there is a continuum sort of in terms of the way they're managed, but would you say that there is some clear differences between traditional projects versus these hybrid agile projects? What are some key differences that you might talk about, Elizabeth?
I think that the most common way I see it deployed is where the predictive life cycle forms the overarching skeleton, if you like, for expectations, for governance, for oversight, for sign-off milestones. And a lot of that comes down to the rest of the organization shaping how projects get funded and approved and decision-making cycles. So it's fine to say, we're going to be agile, but if your money is only released to you on a quarterly budget cycle, or you get to the end of the year and you have to put together a budget for 2025, for example, then you can't truly be agile because it's not truly fluid in the same way that it could be if you weren't constrained by those organizational constraints. So I think that's probably the biggest difference is those two worlds have to collide. You've got your predictive stage gates, but you could be doing iterative development. You could be doing continuous retrospectives and continuous process improvement, but having to fit within certain funding milestones or preparing certain papers for board members to approve and get your business case ratified at certain points. So there is a sort of practical ways of working type difference, because you've got to make sure that those two different methodologies, different mindsets come together and work seamlessly. And it does work, but it can be quite awkward for me, for example, as a project manager, and I'm saying, but I need to know what your milestones are. I need to be planning what we're doing in quarter 3, even at very high level. And for the agile team to come back and say, well, I can tell you what we're doing for the next sprint, and then we'll groom the backlog, and then we'll tell you what's coming up next. And managing stakeholder expectations can be quite different in that kind of environment. So I think that's probably the biggest difference, challenge, I don't really know how to describe it, is getting those two outlooks to work seamlessly and to communicate it to people what they can expect to receive as project deliverables.
Yeah, yeah. To me, having been a project manager for a good part of my early career, the biggest challenge for us used to be to from the delivery side to get the customer to commit to a scope of work, right? And and actually get sign-offs on frozen set of requirements and not change anything after that. To move away from that, and therefore the customer also felt very comfortable in many ways that there was a very clear requirements phase, and they could take as much time as needed to define those requirements, and take their time to make up their minds. Now to sort of move away from that and say, okay, it's okay to change our minds and do so sort of almost continuously over the duration of the project. And for the project team to say, okay, we can deal with that because we have a mechanism to deal with that, which is different from the sort of formal change control, processes that we used earlier. That I think poses some of the biggest challenges for people to get used to the whole notion that yes, the scope may not be frozen, but at the end of the project, which is still defined in terms of a timeline, I'm going to get something which is actually going to be more likely to meet our business need than, what traditional waterfall projects might have got us in the past, even though they were far more defined or more predictable.
There's a good situation in the chat, actually. I don't think everyone on the call can see all the comments, so I'll just read it out. But it's about a situation arisen and that has forced that particular team to use it. And the commenter says, I handle technical customer support team and the application development team, and they use Kanban for support and Scrum for the engineering and the dev teams. And they had to march towards hybrid because that was the best solution. I'm assuming that was the best solution at the time. And so sometimes teams are not necessarily forced, but come to the conclusion that because of what they're being asked to do, they need to be able to be flexible enough to work in different ways to suit different needs. And to, like you say, you might not exactly know the finesse of every single requirement that you're going to be delivering, but at the end you're going to get what you need. And that's a bit of a leap of faith for some managers who are expected, who've worked in the past with a very detailed technical system requirements or functional requirements, and then they sort of have to move away from that, even though there's still obviously requirements with agile projects, and you just pick and choose which ones are going to be developed first to get the best value.
Yeah, exactly. I think the services industry, service industry forms a big part of our customer base, and obviously they are measured on doing fixed price, fixed cost projects, but at the same time be agile in the way that they respond to changing conditions, changing customer demand, and all of that. And um, we like to believe that there should therefore be a far greater adoption of hybrid agile in these situations, but even they are constrained a lot by what their customers might expect. So therefore, there's still that tussle that goes on between just nailing down everything at the start and then not changing anything to saying no, we can be more flexible, and trust me, you're going to get something that you really need or you actually want by the end of the project. As you said, it's still a bit of a leap of faith for both sides, actually. All right. So let's go on to then the applicability. So, is it that hybrid agile is sort of the panacea for all projects? Is it a problem to be solved? So let's get into that a little bit more. So, do you think that there are specific kinds of projects that are more amenable to hybrid agile?
Yes, I do. So I think the projects that would be most suitable for agile hybrid, certainly drawing on my own experience, are where there are components of the project that are flexible or uncertain, and there are other components of the project that are very certain, like you've only got a certain amount of money or you have to deliver by a certain date, and you can combine those two things It's also really useful as a technique when there's lots of collaboration required between the teams, and preferably you've got your team members allocated to the project on a full-time basis. That seems to work best in my experience for agile teams. And so it's good for when leaders want to go fast as well, when you've got the expectation that you just want to just start doing some drops, start getting some releases out there, start delivering something rather than have to wait 3, 6, 9 months until everything is built and tested and gone through all of the various different governance hoops until it can be released as a big bang. So there might be constraints around budgets and dates, but if the expectation is that we need something to start and to start showing people that we're making progress, then that approach can work really well. And I think one of the other considerations of whether your project is suitable to be a hybrid agile project is, do you actually know enough about agile? Because
Yes.
certain teams, if you're just I don't mean it in a derogatory way, but if you are a team that is used to working in an iterative way, then great, you've already got all of those skills. But if you're a team that's used to working with a predictive methodology and Gantt charts and traditional planning, then for someone to suddenly say, oh, now we're all going to do everything in 2-week sprints or whatever, can be quite disconcerting. So I think the hybrid agile approach works well when you've got experts in the business who can guide and set up. And it's almost as if you had agile teams and predictive teams, and you're saying we're looking for ways to bring them together to be even more efficient than we already are, rather than let's train everybody on how to create Gantt charts, or let's train everybody on how to do burn down charts and work in an agile way, because those kind of culture shifts and training shifts take time to embed. So if you don't have the skills in house, it might be harder. So that would be a project that would perhaps be less suited. Sorry, that was a bit of a rambling answer, wasn't it? I just sort of thought of all these things.
That's fine. Not a problem at all. But you're right that in terms of the way that the context of the project will help you decide what sort of process you should adopt. Is there a guideline that people can use? And like you said at the start of the project, and of course it's most critical that people already are familiar with both sides of the equation, whether it's traditional or agile. Uh, but is there some framework or guideline to say, if you answer a set of questions and say yes, eh, for a certain set of answers, this project is more suitable for waterfall versus for agile? Is there something like that you can offer?
Um, there's, I think there's some thinking around how complicated the work is going to be. Is the
Hmm.
work complex, complicated? What's the relationship between the outcome that you want and the inputs that you know? How woolly and difficult to understand is the environment? Because all of those things lean themselves towards a project that would be better to deliver in an agile way, where you are uncovering things and replanning and understanding as you go. So I think that those where there's a high degree of uncertainty. So yes, you probably could determine a few things. But it's a really interesting question though, because it's where professional judgment comes into play. And I think where we've been as project leaders historically is you do a course, you use a tool, and then that sort of constrains you in how you lead a project. And the more experience you get, the more you realize that that's not necessarily the best way. And you bring in things from other disciplines and you just use your professional experience to lead the project in the best way that's most suitable. But for new entrants, for new graduates or apprentices, people coming into project management, and we say to them, what do you think the best approach would be for this project? Unless we can provide them with that guidance, how do they know? They've never led an agile project, they've never led a hybrid project, they've never been in charge of a predictive project.
Right.
And we're expecting people to make tailoring choices without the knowledge. So I think it's really important that if we can put frameworks together, if we can make sure people have got mentors, if we make sure software is capable of doing all the different things that people might need it to do, and leaders are there to guide, then we've using the expertise and the organizational knowledge to make the best choices.
Okay. Okay. Right. I have heard of this framework. I think that's known as the Canavan framework, if
Oh
I
yes.
think right, by Dave Snowden. And I have seen it more in the context of, just using different agile methods, not necessarily in the hybrid agile context, but it refers to exactly what you were saying, whether a situation is I think simple, complex, complicated, and chaotic. And depending on the situation, you then uh, respond to that situation in a way that can be then done by either a waterfall, very predictive, very defined way of doing things, or doing it in small steps and then responding to change, or just doing it and then seeing what was the outcome and then responding based on that. So that's an interesting framework that I've heard about. I don't know if you've seen it being used formally in
Uh,
any organization.
no, I've not seen it being used
Okay.
actively, but Cynefin is a really good one to look at constraints, because if you are looking at um, what's constraining your project, it can also give you a clue as to how the best way to manage it would be. So, for example, if it's complicated, you might need some constraints around how are we going to govern this work, how are we going to break it down into smaller pieces. If it's relatively simple, then you've got much more flexibility in how you do things. So yes, I mean, you might have some constraints around this is how much money we've got, this is how many people we've got, but the constraints are different. So yes, I'd suggest if people are interested in that, there's quite a lot of stuff online about Cynefin. So it's an interesting framework to read more about.
Right, absolutely. And for those of you who may not have heard of it, I think it's got an interesting spelling. I think it's pronounced
Yes,
Cynefin. I think the actual spelling is, I think, Cynefin, or something like that. Cynefin framework. Yeah.
it's Welsh,
Yeah, very
isn't it?
interesting. Absolutely. Um, the other aspect of it around it is that are there certain types of projects or industries, construction or large infrastructure projects, or civil, I mean, building projects, etc. Are there certain types of industries that are more amenable to? And I think it's a question for just not just agile but also hybrid. I mean, not just for hybrid agile but also agile. Are are they only doable in a waterfall manner, or can these principles be applied across industries?
Well, there aren't really any absolutes in project management, so never say never. But um,
Yeah.
no, I can't really see a situation where if I was building an oil rig in the ocean, that I
Right.
would be able to do that in an agile way. But if there's software development involved, then maybe a particular work stream or a sub-project might be using an agile approach, and therefore as a program, it could be a hybrid agile program. So yes, I'm sure to answer your question, well, I feel like as soon as I say, no, it could never be used in construction, someone will come up and say, oh, but we did it and it was fine. But
Right.
I'm sure there are certain projects that lend themselves more to working in a hybrid way or working in an agile way. And from my experience, things that fall into construction, heavy engineering, um, military projects, building boats and things like that would would be less agile than
Mm.
a technology project or launching an app, clearly.
Yeah, I agree. This is a question that I've had most fun asking people in agile conferences. How do you do certain projects in an agile manner? And of course, it's sometimes you have got to say no, it's not possible. One of the projects that has been big in California is the high-speed transit project, the California high-speed transit project. They want to run a high-speed train line between LA and San Francisco or beyond. I think maybe further north. And it's been going on for 20 years. And of
Wow.
course, even the first phase hasn't been delivered yet. And so those are the kind of projects where you say, how do you show value? How do you deliver an MVP? How do you even define what's the minimum viable product that would demonstrate value? Because at least to my mind, you can't demonstrate value till the whole project is completed because of just the nature of the I mean, not the logistics, but the nature of the work. If you want to replace people flying from San Francisco to LA, you got to first complete the rail line between San Francisco to LA so that you can say yes,
They have an
people.
alternative.
Right, they have an alternative, exactly. So, but anyway, so yeah, that's the kind of argument that usually comes in terms of what kind of projects can be more applicable versus those that can't be. Um, in terms of the way that we typically see project organizations and the way projects are financed, there is the stakeholder, which is not necessarily the customer. The stakeholders are the people who are who are financing the project. Customer is the end user or the beneficiary. In the case of the California's high speed, it is the public that's going to be the end user and the customer. And of course, there is the project delivery team, the people that are going to actually work on the project. So there is always the sort of conflict between the stakeholder, the customer, and the delivery team. Hybrid agile projects, I believe, are probably the most effective at reducing those tensions. That's my belief. So what do you have to say to that, Elizabeth?
No, I'd agree. I think if we go back to the tension I mentioned earlier around making sure that the teams can work effectively and that there's transparency and we give our executives what we need in terms of reporting at a portfolio level, if you're able to consolidate all of that information, execs can see progress across all projects in a single dashboard. That's exactly what they're needing. So overall, it should make it easier to gain buy-in because what we're saying is please give us permission to do the work in the most effective way, and the teams will do their best work, and you will get your outcomes quicker, faster, more efficiently. So it feels like it should be an easy sell, right? But I'm sure, as somebody put in the chat earlier on, it's not necessarily easy to get people to change their mind about how they want to see projects delivered. But I think you've broken down there the three different categories of stakeholders. If you think about those funders or the sponsor, they're getting a structured overview of the project from the initial planning phases, but they also get the benefit of the adaptability of Agile. So they could be, we can evidence that we're using resources more efficiently, we could get better return on investment, we can get benefits delivered earlier because things are delivered incrementally. So there are benefits there. And there's benefits for customers as well. So those beneficiaries you mentioned, they see parts of the project delivered iteratively, they get more involved with their feedback. We can adjust as we go to meet their needs more effectively. And what they get at the end should be a much better fit for purpose product than if they had specified things. Because I'm sure we've all been in the situations where customers have specified what they want. And then when we give it to them, they went, oh, didn't realize it was going to look like that. I wish the button was on the other side. And if we are managing in an agile way, then we're involving them at every step. We would never have been in that situation. But I would say the biggest difference really is, or the biggest impact is for the project team because they get to be empowered. They have their clear initial guidelines, they have their milestones, but they've got the flexibility to adapt and iterate. They'll probably be more satisfied with their working environment. They'll probably feel more as if they're the owner of the work, which will probably increase productivity, be good for morale. So if it's done well, it can be a really powerful tool.
Yeah. And again, I was going to refer to the question that came up initially, that I believe that um, it is perhaps the most effective way to actually influence management and leadership, thought process around how to organize projects, and also in terms of moving organizations from being, let's say, very waterfallish to being more agile, because you have sort of a gradual path of transition. Um, the challenge, I think, still remains for a lot of teams is that sort of fear or uncertainty that potentially agile introduces, that you don't know what is going to be delivered. You might commit to dates, you might commit to timelines and costs, of course, but what is the value that's going to be delivered at the end? If that is uncertain, people sort of, I think, balk at the whole idea. They say, no, let's go ahead and first make a commitment on the scope as well. So I think in a lot of our customers' discussions that we've seen, I myself been involved in a number of those. Uh, Everyone else, including the business user who's the beneficiary, might see the point, but when it comes to the people who are funding the project and they're saying, hey, am I getting my money's worth? They have the biggest, I'm not going to say resistance, but biggest fear or biggest doubt about, is this going to work? And um, but as you said, you're absolutely right that it is perhaps the most effective technique of saying, you know, take that leap of faith, and then if we can actually, deliver some of the best projects that you ever experienced because of the way that it is planned and executed. So yes, that is sort of the challenge. But nevertheless, I think that if you can successfully have that discussion with whoever you need to have it with, stakeholders and customers at the beginning of the project, and get them to agree, um, I think it's a win-win for everyone. So hopefully we can get. Lindsay, I don't know if there are any questions on the Q&A. I believe we can't see the Q&A, but if there are any, let us know. So I think we are coming sort of to the end of the session, Elizabeth. So let's talk about so if people are not yet familiar with it and they want to now, look at it and start to use it, what is sort of a good way to think about a roadmap of, how to move towards using or adopting the hybrid agile methodology?
I think that's a hard question to give a definitive answer for because, excuse me, every organization is going to be different and have different needs. But I think the first thing to start with is what is it that you're implementing and why? So, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? Is it because you don't have visibility about resources? Is it because your teams are constantly at loggerheads, or your execs don't have a single view of the portfolio? And then if you know what the why is that's driving your desire to adopt new ways of working, then everything sort of lines up behind that. And then you can start thinking about what is it that we're actually going to implement. And also, but how do you implement what's effectively giving people some flexibility in their choice of tools? But it helps if you've got like a PMO who can have, here are some toolkits. This is what a burn down chart looks like. This is our minimum requirement. Every project needs a business case. And they're setting out some standards for each project while allowing people some degree of flexibility to say, you can use this, you can use that. These are the things available to you. We trust you to pick and choose, and we will guide you if you need help. But this is our minimum standard, if you like, for the way that our organization has to operate. So I think those frameworks and structures and minimum expectations are good, so people don't go rogue and just do anything and nothing within the boundaries of what's acceptable for your project management practice. And then probably think about how you're going to support people going through the change. So if you want to change ways of working, what mentors and coaches and training and software do you need to have in place so that people actually have the capacity to do it? Because it's not enough to go into the office tomorrow and say, let's all be hybrid agile. You can pull some tools off of the Agile Alliance website and use these different ways of running meetings and have at it. We need a bit more of a framework around, who do we go to when we've got questions? Can we get our tools to produce the reports in the way that we want? How do we blend things together? It's a lot of talking and a lot of discussion to get the right things in place. And it's setting expectations at the beginning of on a particular project. You just start at the beginning, roles and responsibilities, do a RACI matrix. What does it mean for reporting? What are the expectations? Do we have to still do formal reporting to the PMO and to the project sponsor once a month? Are we having a steering committee meeting every quarter? What does that look like? And if we are doing it, great, we'd do that. If we're not, as long as we understand why, is there an alternative? Then it's just managing people's expectations, I think. Sorry, that's probably quite vague. If you were hoping for like a 3-step, here's how to overnight become hybrid agile. But I think you probably could, as an organizational team, sit down as a group of project managers and say, what do we want? What problem are we trying to fix? What do we need to get there? And make it happen.
Right. No, I think that it cannot be very definitive at all. I think the process is uh, quite a mix of both, specific practices, preparatory steps, etc., but also just changing the thought process, right? Changing, the mindset, so to speak. One thing that I would probably add is, again, going by our experience with stakeholders versus the project teams, that constant sort of conflict, that maybe there is some initial prep required at the organization level, to say this is a change that we want to look at, and explain sort of the benefits of it, and get people to buy in at the senior level, the leadership level, or the stakeholder level. Um, Maybe some additional effort there to start with, to make the transition easier later on. To know that, because anytime you do any change, there is always a little bit of a dip in performance, right? People,
Yes.
you always, that famous S curve of how change happens. Things may not look very rosy right at the beginning, but they will eventually work out, and that's sort of the support that project managers and PMOs would need from the leadership, to say, okay, this is fine. We understand this is a change that we are going with, and then it'll work out in the end.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So last question, and it's not so much a question, but I made a comment and you had sort of responded to that. But I'm going to ask you this: should all projects be agile? Aren't all projects already? I'm sorry, not agile. Should all projects be hybrid agile? Declare projects here henceforth to be all hybrid agile. Would you do if you were given the sort of the the royal I don't know what they call it scepter? Would you say
Would I
from
decree that?
yes?
Um, I I don't know. I don't know. I find hybrid, yes, I like the idea of blending lots of
Right.
different things, but for me, hybrid agile, it's a very personal interpretation. Feels like it should be bringing in aspects of agile delivery. So, the cadence, the ceremonies, the tools and techniques of an agile environment. Um, and I like the idea of tailoring. So if I would turn that around and say, I believe all projects should be tailored to their environment, and I feel like that's a cop out of an answer.
Okay, I'm not going to give you a hard time on that one. Yes, so you're right. Again, I think it is ultimately it's been talked about in the for the longest time that ultimately the needs of the project and the team are sort of paramount in terms of what dictates. I mean, what the situation dictates, or what is required for the specific value to be delivered. So it is adaptable. Therefore, to that extent, it is flexible for each team to be able to decide their own sort of framework. Um, Wonderful. I think we are sort of at the end of the questions, and I think nearly at the end of of our time today. But if there are any final questions from anybody in the audience, let me just take a look. There is a comment that yes, it is complex and it is not something that we can um, complex to define. Yeah. So I don't know if there are any other questions from the audience. I think this has definitely been a meaningful conversation to have. We are certainly looking at engaging with the community to better understand how hybrid agile is being implemented, if it is being done in that specific context or framing of definition. You might call it something completely different, not even know that it is sort of also hybrid agile. But if you are interested to, talk to us about what your organization is doing, we'd love to connect with you offline and see if there is new things that we can learn about, how projects can be better defined and managed. I think, Linza, did we have another poll question for letting people respond yes or no?
Yes, it's there.
So this is just to make sure that we don't spam all of you with requests for questions, a request for an engagement on this. But if you are open to talking to us about how your organization deals with what is sort of what can broadly be defined as the hybrid agile context, we'd love to talk to you about it. So just a simple yes or no question, and no worries about, there's no commitment to do anything, and uh, yeah, nothing else riding on this question. All right, so we can take that away, Linda, and
Yeah.
we can, I think, start to wind up. So, uh, oh, thank you very much. It looks like there is a 50-50 split between the audience in terms of those who want to talk to us versus those who don't. Thanks a lot. I'd love to talk to you, and we will connect with you offline oh, there is a question that
There's a
has come up.
question.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see that. Um,
Would you like to come on camera and ask?
Yeah, let's see if so funny can we get, I don't know, Linda, can you unmute Fani and see if we can
Yeah.
let me
Yes.
Hello, Mahesh and everybody. Can you guys hear
Hey
me?
Fani. Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Not sure if you can see me, but thank you so much. This is an engaging conversation and interesting topics. Probably because I work for an organization where I work with the Hybrid Agile approach to deliver the projects. So I actually work as an RTE, Scale Agile Framework RTE
Hmm.
for an art, and oversee the projects that are being delivered through the art. So my question is, in this hybrid agile approach, I see the traditional project manager roles as well as agile scrum master roles. I mean, um, both the people are insecure at times in the
Hmm.
conversations. So, so what would be the best approach for the management? So to completely go traditional way or completely transform into an agile way of, with your experience.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the discussion about roles and definitions always comes up. Elizabeth, I'm sure you've seen this. Uh, you know, Project managers, or testers. Those roles sort of start to morph once people start to move towards agile. So, great question. And I'm going to let Elizabeth handle it first, and I'll share with you my experiences after that.
Okay. Well, I can tell you within Project Management Rebels, which is the community that I ran, we've had two qualified certified project managers in traditional methodologies recently go for Scrum Master certification, um, because it's something that gives them broader experience, broader opportunity in the job market, and it's learning new skills. So I think there's certainly I see it that way more. I see people who have come from perhaps a more traditional project management background taking Scrum Master certification or moving into a Scrum Master role, feeling like they can do that as a hybrid role, if you see what I mean, more than I see people who have traditionally come from an agile background taking their PMP or asking to move into a more sort of program management role. So I think the roles thing is really quite interesting, is the flow of direction of where people are building their skills. And I can tell you my experience at the moment. I'm a program manager, so I'm running a program. We've got a number of different projects, and they're run in a number of different ways. And working with both project managers who have had a more traditional career path and studied predictive ways of doing things, and then product owners and scrum masters and delivery team managers who are managing in a different type of way. And it's really interesting to see how the skills complement. So I think in terms of where do I think the roles are going, I think people are being expected to do more and to shape themselves into a role that has aspects of both and that can be broad. And we certainly need the level of understanding of our colleagues. So even if we are not operating as an agile project manager or a scrum master, we still need to understand what that role actually does. I don't know if that answers the question. Mahesh, what were you going to say?
I was going to, so I think it answers the question quite nicely. Um, what I have seen funny is that firstly the question that you asked is real. A lot of people and companies have struggled with this challenge of saying how do we make changes to the organization so that it supports the new way of working effectively, and I think that's a good fair question. Um, I've seen two typical approaches. One where people have sort of en masse moved over to new roles because they've adopted, let's say, the Scrum framework or some Agile framework. Scaled Agile is also part of that, and each of these give you some new roles that people have trained for, got certified in, and over a period of time, become effective at it, right? Good at it. There are others where and I think, sorry, just to add to that, the certification that I think Elizabeth you referred to, which is provided by the PMI, the Agile Project Management Certification. I forget the exact name, ACP or something like that. Um, so they go through that. The other approach that I have seen, and those are I think organizations that have gone through more of a Kanban-ish implementation, is where they've decided initially not to make any changes. So they said, okay, let's keep current roles and responsibilities as they are, but let's define what the uh, project needs to do or what the team needs to deliver in terms of value, etc. And over a period of working on that new way of working, which could be completely agile or could be a mix of traditional and agile, which is sort of the hybrid agile way. And over a period of time, decide what roles make sense for that new way of working and then define them. So sometimes they struggle to name them in terms of saying, okay, is this really a Scrum Master role? Scrum Masters are not meant to be project managers. So or is this a project manager role? So they struggle with that. But nevertheless, at the end of working with it for a certain amount of time, could vary depending on the nature of the organization, the context of the project. They have been able to then decide what mix of roles they can continue to work with. So it could be that you have, and we have seen actually customers where there has been a uh, agile influenced change of roles that took place over a period of time, where they not only had the Scrum Master and the product owner roles, as an example, but they continued to have a project manager role, which whose job was to be the manager, to be the project manager and to be driving the project deliverables. So they continued to work with the product owners and the Scrum Master to make sure that the project got done in the way that it was supposed to be done, in terms of timelines, milestones, commitments, and things like that. So it's possible, and I think in a way, Scale Agile, the SAFe framework gives you some leeway as well to say, okay, you have new roles like the RTs and others, but you also can continue to have portfolio manager roles and program manager roles that existed in the organization before you started adopting SAFe, to continue to have those roles. So you can choose. I think you can choose both ways. One is to go get that certification, get the people to train and in the specific skills that you want. But at the same time, it's possible to start slow, not make any changes to the organization structure and the roles, and learn as you go, and make the best choices for your business function or the complete organization at an overall level. So not an easy, but definitely a very good question, because that's, I think, one area where people have challenges, because it's a big part of who they are, and how they get perceived in the organization, and what sphere of influence they have in terms of what they control, what they manage going forward. Right.
Thank you, Mahesh.
All right. So we are.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah, there is something in the. Oh. Um,
So, Mahesh, we have a comment from Catherine, and Weber wants to ask a question.
okay. Elizabeth, are you okay to stay on a couple of more minutes?
Yes, of course.
Okay, wonderful. So Catherine, I think, has said this is great. Thank you. I think a significant challenge of hybrid projects portfolios is figuring out how to measure performance in a meaningful way that appeases executive leadership teams, sponsors, and other stakeholders who are more accustomed to traditional projects. Absolutely, I think that is really the challenge of any project environment. How do you make sure that you are are keeping stakeholders satisfied, appeased is a good way to put it also, that they are meeting organizational and business goals through the project that's being done. And Elizabeth, my thought is here that the hybrid agile, more than any other system, better positioned to take to sort of address the fears of stakeholders, to get things on the timelines and the cost that they expect, and at the same time make customers happier. Okay, so let's. Oh, so I think there is no question. I think Vaibhav had by mistake uh, raised his hand. No worries. We are over at the time, but Elizabeth, thank you so much for this conversation. I hope that you enjoyed it. I truly did. We will make this recording available to everyone who registered for the webinar. And so hopefully we'll see some more reactions and responses. And I look forward to engaging with those of you who said that you'd like to talk to us. Elizabeth, any final thoughts? And Lindsay, in the meantime, if you could put up the slide with our contact information, people can connect with Elizabeth or us as needed. But Elizabeth, the floor is yours.
Just to say thank you very much for having me on this episode today. It's been really great to dig into a conversation about hybrid, and great to see the comments and things in the chat as well. So if you come off of this call and you're thinking, oh, I wish I'd asked that, or having a brainwave tomorrow and you wish you'd had the opportunity to ask that today, then by all means connect with me and connect with Mahesh on LinkedIn. You can get in touch with us. The contact details are on the screen.
Wonderful. Yeah, look forward to it. Elizabeth, as usual, it's always great to talk to you, and you always get some new ideas and new thoughts, whenever we discuss these things. Thank you so much for doing this, and thank you to the audience for joining us today and making the time. And we'd love to connect with those of you who said yes. And if you have other questions, like Elizabeth said, do connect with us. We do have some great capabilities in our products. So if you're looking for better ways to manage Agile or Hybrid Agile or Waterfall projects for that matter, take a look at our website and see if there is something that you'd like to talk to us about. Thanks a lot, Lindsay. Thank you for a great session. And Elizabeth, take care.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.